That's a psychotic person right there.
I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idealistic Jeffrey Dahmer.
I had a box in my bedroom closet, and it contained the mummified head and genitals of a young man I met.
اتسمت محاكمة تايلور شبيزنس بالغرابة من أول لآخر لحظة فيها. المحاكمة اللي بدأت بضرب تايلور للمحامي بتاعها وانتهت بأمر القاضي بوضع قناع لمنع ظهور تعبيرات وشها المستفزة خصوصا قدام أهل الضحية في قضية اتسمت ببيت الرعب بسبب تفاصيلها المفزعة اللي أرعبت الكل وأولهم أفراد الشرطة. بداية الأحداث كانت باتصال غريب للطوارئ من شخص بيقول إن حبيبته اللي عايش معاها في بيتها بلغته إنها شافت رأس ابنها شاد ثيرون في سلة بجانب سلم القبو. ومن غرابة البلاغ اضطر الموظف اللي استقبل المكالمة يسأل: هل حبيبتك شربت أي حاجة خلتها تهلوس أو تشوف منظر مش موجود أساساً؟ فكان رد الشخص عليه: أنا مش قادر أحدد أي حاجة، أنا نظري ضعيف جدا ومش هجرؤ إن أنا أبص في السلة دي تاني. استجاب 2 مبتدئين من أفراد الشرطة للبلاغ ده لأنهم كانوا فاكرين إنه هيكون مجرد بلاغ كاذب، لكنهم للأسف عثروا على رأس الضحية شاد ثيرون في نفس المكان اللي قالت عليه والدته. وقتها اضطروا يتصلوا بالمشرفين بتوعهم ويطلبوا دعم أكبر وسط نظرات من الذهول والرعب بينهم هما الاتنين. أكدت الأم على إن آخر شخص تواجد مع ابنها في القبو هي واحدة اسمها تايلور شبيزنس، وعشان كده بدأت الشرطة في تفتيش القبو بحثاً عن حاجتين مهمين: تايلور شبيزنس وباقي جثمان الضحية شاد ثيرون، لكن ما كانش فيه أثر واضح للاتنين. كثفت الشرطة البحث وتتبعت آثار الدماء في القبو عشان تكتشف إن جسم شاد متوزع على 3 حاويات مختلفة، واكتشفوا وجود حاوية رابعة فيما بعد. الحاوية الأولى كانت عبارة عن شنطة زرقاء تواجد فيها الرئة اليمنى وأجزاء من الكبد وأجزاء من الجلد والأنسجة الدهنية. الحاوية التانية كانت شنطة وردية اللون تواجد فيها الرئة اليسرى وأجزاء من الجلد والعضلات. التفاصيل اللي أنا قلتها دي كانت بتتقال في قاعة المحكمة قدام والدة الضحية اللي حضرت المحاكمة من بدايتها وشهدت فيها، لكنها رفضت ظهور وشها أو صوتها، وده اللي خلى القاضي يؤمر الإعلام برغبتها.
We need to clarify with the media in the back that this is a victim and she's not to be live streamed, she's not to be videoed. My understanding is that that's what's happening right now, so we need to stop it, okay?
ولنفس السبب معرفناش باقي تفاصيل الأجزاء المعصور عليها من جسم شاد في باقي الحاويات، لأن المدعي العام اعترض على ذكر محامي الدفاع للتفاصيل ديت قدام أهله وخصوصا والدته، لأن ده شيء ممكن يجرح شعورها، والقاضي قبل الاعتراض ده.
And in this container 3 were plastic shopping bags, correct?
There was.
There were some body parts in there?
There was.
Skin, fatty tissue, muscle?
Yes.
Left lung? A left lung, correct?
I don't recall. It's very likely yes.
Okay. Pelvis?
Judge,
Yes.
I'm going to object. I don't know the relevance of asking the specific questions about this. I frankly think it's unsensitive to the crime victims who are present. I don't know that it assists the jury in any way to go through the specific body parts that are located in each of these containers.
Well, my client is charged with mutilation of a corpse, so I think the state's got to prove up their case, and I think the jury just needs to hear whatever information is out there.
I'm satisfied that we need to move on. I'm going to sustain the objection.
ونرجع ليوم الحادث تاني 23/2/2022 وقت ما الأم قالت اسم تايلور للشرطة، فبقى عندهم مشتبه فيه. توجهوا لبيتها ولقوا آثار دماء على ملابسها وجروح في إيديها. لكنهم ما كانوش محتاجين لكل ده، لأن تايلور أول ما وصلت لقسم الشرطة اعترفت بكل حاجة، وعلى أساس كلامها ده تم توجيه 3 تهم ليها: 1 القتل العمد، 2 التمثيل بالجثة، 3 الاعتداء الجنسي. محاكمة تايلور كان متجهز لها تمشي على مرحلتين. المرحلة الأولى اللي هيقرر فيها هيئة المحلفين إن كانت مذنبة بالتهم ال3 أو لأ، ولو تم إثبات التهم عليها هينتقلوا للمرحلة التانية اللي فيها هيقرر هيئة المحلفين إن كانت تايلور في وعيها وقت الجريمة أو لأ. في البداية حب محامي الدفاع يوصل لهيئة المحلفين إن حتى لو تايلور قتلت فما كانش فيه أي نية أو تعمد لقتل شاد، لأن مفيش أي دافع يخليها تعمل حاجة زي دي، خصوصا وإنهم أصدقاء من أيام المرحلة الثانوية. وعشان كده كان في صراع بين المدعي العام وبين محامي الدفاع لعرض دليل بيربط تايلور بالسفاح جيفري دامر. لكن إيه هي أصلا علاقة تايلور بالسفاح جيفري دامر؟
I know that the state intends to offer 3 exhibits. I'll take the easy one first. One is a photograph of my client, Taylor Shebiznes, either laying on a bed or sitting, and then there's a phone next to her, and the phone has a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer on her phone, so they're together. We all know that Jeffrey Dahmer was the worst serial killer in Wisconsin history. There are a lot of negative memories and thoughts and commentary. The state is trying to link my client with Jeffrey Dahmer by offering these exhibits. Additionally, the other Celebrate exhibits that Mr. Lassay wishes to produce contain references to Satanic Bible, Flaming Pentagram, Satan, Jeffrey Dahmer's butt, Jeffrey Dahmer walking in all sexy in court. That if this information comes in, she's going to be painted in the worst light possible, with probably, maybe, the worst killer in human history. And I don't believe that is fair, but the court has to make that call. But I'm just making the arguments on her behalf. I don't think it's necessarily relevant. This is going to be a trial within a trial. It's going to create a sideshow. This is not the Jeffrey Dahmer case. It is not. This is different. People do searches on the internet all the time. People do dumb things. They search for weird things. They search for odd things. But I don't see how this is even relevant to what we're talking about in this particular case. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lassay.
Your Honor, I think the information is relevant. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ms. Shebiznes intended to engage in this conduct, that she intended to kill Shad Theory, and that she intended to dismember his body. Her interest in Jeffrey Dahmer is relevant to this case. She, I assume, is going to argue either that she didn't intend to do this, or certainly is going to argue in the second phase of the trial that she had some sort of mental illness that caused her to do this. The state's position clearly is that no, she did this because she wanted to do this. This is something that interests her. She liked what she did in this case. And her interest in Jeffrey Dahmer and the things that he did and the awful things that Attorney Freilich talked about, her interest in him is relevant to that point. It suggests that she had an interest in these things. It is not something that was done solely because of the methamphetamine, or that was done as an accident, or was some sort of reckless behavior, or that was the result of a mental illness.
So, Mr. Lassay, your reference to Ms. Shebiznes having an interest in this kind of thing, is that a different way of saying motive?
I think it is. I mean, I do think that it is motive evidence.
عمليات بحث تايلور على جوجل عن جيفري دامر ممكن تكون خدمت النيابة في إثبات دوافعها للجريمة، لكن ما كانش ليها ثقل حقيقي في إثبات وحشية جرائمها في حق شاد، لأن لما الطبيب الشرعي بدأ يشرح كل حاجة سواء عن سبب وفاة شاد أو عن الطريقة اللي قامت بيها تايلور بتقطيع أوصاله والتمثيل بجثته، كان ده أهم مسمار في انعاش براءة تايلور من التهم الموجهة إليها.
It is my medical opinion that the cause of death of Shad Therian is strangulation, and that the manner of death is homicide.
بدأ الطبيب الشرعي كلامه بأن المعاينة الأولى كشفت ليه أن جسم شاد المتوزع على أرجاء القبر مفقود منه بعض الأجزاء، وهي الفخذ الأيمن بداية من الخصر نهاية بالركبة، والفخذ الأيسر والقدم اليسرى، وإن الأجزاء دي تعرف بتواجدها في عربية صغيرة أمام منزل المتهمة. ووضح أن سبب وفاة شاد هو الاختناق، وأداة الجريمة هي سلسلة معدنية بتستخدم في ربط الكلاب، ودي كانت حاجة مهمة قوي بالنسبة للنيابة، حبوا يحطوا تحتها 100 خط لأنها بتثبت أن جريمة تايلور مش مجرد فعل متهور أو غير مقصود، لأن العملية ديت محتاجة قوة هائلة ووقت طويل للاستمرار بالضغط على رقبته لحد ما يموت، خصوصا بسبب مقاومته وفرق القوة العضلية ما بينها وبين شاد، فكان قدامها كذا فرصة تتراجع عن قرارها ده. ولأن ده جزء مهم في إثبات التعمد في القتل، حب الطبيب الشرعي يوضح الأعراض اللي شافها واللي بتدعم كلامه ده.
In this case, on my examination of the decedent, I had a number of findings that were consistent with a strangulation death. To begin with, I had plethory or cyanosis of the head and upper neck. And by plethory or cyanosis, I mean a deep purplish discoloration or congestion of the head and neck, such that I know that return of blood flow back to the body from the head is interrupted or blocked. Along those lines, I had numerous petechial hemorrhages or burst blood vessels of the skin of the face, of the conjunctivae around the eyes or the pink around the eyes. I had hemorrhages as well of the whites of the eyes or the sclera, and I also had hemorrhages of the oral mucosa of the inside of the mouth. These are all consistent with sharp pressure being applied to the neck and the blood vessels of the neck, causing bursting of these blood vessels. In addition, the tongue was protuberant outside of the mouth, consistent with the tongue being driven up and outwards during the process of strangulation. When I examined the tongue itself, there was a patterned indentation on the surface of the tongue, consistent with an object being pressed hard across the tongue such that it left an indentation within the tongue.
ونتيجة للحالة اللي كان فيها جسم شاد والطريقة البشعة في التمثيل بجثته، فضل الطبيب الشرعي يوضح اللي حصل برسم بياني في البداية، لأنه هيكون بمثابة إعداد نفسي لهيئة المحلفين قبل عرض الصور الواقعية اللي عرفنا إنها في قمة الوحشية من الوصف فقط، لأن القاضي رفض عرض صور جثة شاد في وسائل الإعلام. وبنهاية شهادة الطبيب الشرعي كانت نهاية المرحلة الأولى، لأن بيها تأكدت هيئة المحلفين بما لا يدع مجالا للشك إن تايلور مذنبة بالقتل العمد والتمثيل بالجثة والاعتداء الجنسي، وأعلنوا قرارهم ده من خلال هيئة المحكمة.
And my understanding is that the jury has reached a verdict. Is that correct? Yes. Right? If you would hand that to the bailiff then, please. Okay. First verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Shebiznes, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information, dated this date, July 26th, 2023, signed by the foreperson. Second verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Shebiznes, guilty of mutilating a corpse as charged in count 2 of the information, dated this date, July 26th, 2023, signed by the foreperson. The next verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Shebiznes, guilty of third-degree sexual assault as charged in count 3 of the information, dated this date, 26th day of July, 2023, signed by the foreperson.
لكن يتبقى المرحلة التانية اللي من خلالها هيقرروا هل تايلور كانت في وعيها وقت الجريمة أو لأ. وعشان يبدأ المحامي في المرحلة دي قرر يحاول إثبات المرض العقلي لتايلور بداية من طفولتها اللي بدأت بوفاة والدتها وهي عندها 11 سنة، ثم موت أخوها وهي عندها 21 سنة، ثم زواجها من شخص أجبرها على تعاطي المسفتامين، ونتج عن الزواج ده طفل أصبح وحيد مع جده وجدته في ولاية تانية، نهاية بحبس والدها في تهمة الاعتداء الجنسي على طفل قاصر. وأسوأ قرار خده المحامي كان حضور والدها للشهادة في صالحها، بعيدا عن كونه أظهر غضبه الشديد من مجرد ذكر المحامي لسيرة ابن تايلور، لكنه أيضا متهم في قضية بشعة، فما كانش ده الشخص المناسب أبدا اللي يجي يحاول يبرر تصرفاتها لهيئة المحلفين.
And she had a baby, correct?
Yes, she did.
And the baby is currently living in Texas with the grandparents, correct?
Yeah, how is that relevant to anything here? Why do we need to talk about him?
Thank you, sir. Nothing else.
Anything on that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You can step down.
I love you too. Go Bears. Take care of
رجوعا لحالة تايلور النفسية، تايلور وهي عندها 21 سنة اتشخصت باضطراب ثنائي القطب سنة 2020، واللي هو مرض عقلي ممكن يخليها تطلع بسهولة جدا من القضية دي، إلا إن النيابة نجحت في إثبات إن الأعراض اللي من ضمنها الهلوسة وسماع أصوات غريبة بتأمرها بحاجات أغرب، واللي على أساسها تم تشخيصها باضطراب ثنائي القطب، هي أعراض متشابهة مع أعراض تعاطي المسفتامين، وإن الأمر اختلط على الأطباء وقتها، ومفيش وثيقة طبية واحدة بتتكلم عن تشخيصها بالمرض ده سواء قبل السنة دي أو بعدها، وإن وقت ما وقفت تعاطي المسفتامين اختفت الأعراض دي فورا. وهنا كانت المحاولة الأخيرة لمحامي تايلور باستدعاء طبيب نفسي يشهد بحالتها النفسية وإنها غير ملزمة بأفعالها نتيجة مرضها العقلي.
Based on my experience and training, that's a psychotic person right there.
مسيرا على درب فريق دفاع أمبر هيرد واختياراتهم الغريبة للخبراء بتوعهم، فما كانتش الطبيبة اللي جت عشان تدافع عن تايلور تختلف أي حاجة عن الخبير النفسي اللي حاول يشخص جوني ديب بأمراض نفسية مش موجودة فيه. وبعيدا عن انعدام المهنية أو الخبرة اللي هي كانت فيهم، إلا إن تصرفاتها وردود أفعالها كانت أغرب من تايلور نفسها. كانت بتكلم نفسها أوقات، وأحيانا تانية ما كانتش قادرة تسمع اللي بيتقال أصلا، لدرجة إن الناس في التعليقات بدأت تقول إن الطبيبة النفسية محتاجة حد يقيم حالتها النفسية قبل ما تقيم حالة تايلور. في النهاية حكمت هيئة المحلفين على تايلور بأنها مذنبة ولا تعاني من أي مرض عقلي، وإن حالتها ديت هي باختيار شخصي منها جراء تعاطي المسفتامين، ودي حالة لا تؤهل صاحبها للحكم عليه بأنه غير مؤهل عقليا أو غير مسؤول عن أفعاله. وعلى أساس كل ما سبق ذكره قرر القاضي النطق بالحكم.
So, Ms. Shebiznes, this is your opportunity to address me if there's anything on your mind you'd like to say before I pass sentence.
No, there isn't.
Okay. The defendant's character, I can say that over the course of this case, I've learned a great deal about you, Ms. Shebiznes. First of all, you were born in Chicago, lived there until you were about age 10, 12 rather. You seem to have had a stable childhood. You were loved by your mother and your father and your brother. And unfortunately, your mother passed away when you were 12, your brother passed away from in a vehicle accident, and your dad's incarcerated. But I'm confident that all three of them probably still love you very much. She's got a family who cares about her. And although sometimes I think people take that for granted, if you sit in this courtroom long enough, you'll realize that you should never take your family for granted, because so many people come in sitting in that chair in an orange jumpsuit and have absolutely no one who will come in and say, I'm with her. And that takes a little bit of fortitude to come in and do that. And frankly, today she's got extended family that comes in and does that for her, because her direct family are unable to do that for various reasons. And so I think that speaks to Ms. Shebiznes's character, because there's people in this world who find who find value and worth in her, that they're willing to come in and stand behind her. So I think that reflects on character. I'm cognizant of the fact that she began using drugs at a very young age. Marijuana at age 12, cocaine at around 18, and methamphetamine at around 18 as well. And we've heard a lot of testimony about drug usage. I don't have any doubt that that has an impact on how people conduct their lives and behave from moment to moment. But the fact of the matter is, when I watched the interview with law enforcement shortly after these events, I observed someone who was lucid, understanding what was going on, was tracking what was being asked of her, answers were tracking. Everything seemed to be together at that moment. I don't really see the influence of drugs now. It doesn't mean it's not there, but I didn't see it in that interview, which is the most close proximity to the events of this night that we have, is that interview. And right then and there, she seemed to be very lucid in what she was doing. But I don't doubt that there's a long history of drug use, serious drug use. I've heard about Ms. Shebiznes's mental health history. I've read stacks and stacks of mental health records that have come in as recently as a few days ago. And I read them over, which allowed me to learn even more about Ms. Shebiznes and about her character and who she is as a person. I've heard about her son who lives in Texas, and I'm absolutely convinced that she loves her son. And I'm going to say more about that in a minute, but that's a piece of who she is because she's a mom. And I think that is a title that is a precious title, and it's an important title. I was a little bit put off by a statement that I read in the pre-sentence investigation report, frankly, from her father. He said on page 17 of that report, "I feel like the system could have helped Taylor and kind of failed her as well." And I reflected on that because it's difficult to understand who people refer to when they say the system fails people. Because you know what? It's not the job of the system to raise people's children. The system tries to do that. The system is not perfect. Like our fight against methamphetamine is not perfect, but we carry the fight on. People in our community get into the system, be that the court system or the system dealing with child protection. Really, I think what they're referring to, I don't know, but it seems to be the government. The government needs to come in and do more to take care of people who have gone astray. And I'm not sure that that's the case. Nonetheless, attempts are made. So I read that statement. I heard from Mr. Business's father. He is coming in here to talk about his daughter, who's also going through the system, and I couldn't help but think of everything I heard about Mr. Business's son, because it seems to be a cycle. It seems to be just a circle. It's coming around again. But I'm also convinced that no one is responsible for where they come from, but you are responsible for where you're going. Next, I move on to the gravity of the offense, and I sit in this chair often, and I address situations where people have lost their lives, or people have been violated terribly. But in this case, it seems different. In this case, you seem to run out of superlatives when describing what happened in this case. You really do. The list of superlatives don't seem to measure up to what you see, what you hear about, and what we heard about in the trial. This crime offends human decency, it offends human dignity, and it offends the human community. It really does. When someone loses their life needlessly, it's tragic. It really is. It's tragic for family and friends and community. When life is taken from a person in the fashion that it was in this case, where the victim's remains are cut up and packaged in containers, it's difficult to identify a human nature in those activities. It really is. It's very troubling. You can get a sense of it. You can get a sense of it and a feel for it, but there's no really way to express the gravity of this offense. but at this time, given all the factors that I have to consider, it's the decision of this court and the judgment of the law that Ms. Shebiznes be sentenced as follows. And that's the first-degree intentional homicide as a repeater. It's a Class A felony. I'm going to impose life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision. I believe that's appropriate in light of the findings that I've already made.
I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idealistic Jeffrey Dahmer.
Sorry if you just state your name for the record.
Michael Therian.
Go ahead.
Taylor, I just wanted to say that I forgive you for what you've done to my son. And yeah, you made a bad choice, and now you have to live with it. But you know, I'm gonna miss Shad, and I'm gonna ask the judge if he can, you know, if she can see the streets again sometime. You know, it may not be soon, but I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to the scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you.